With the 11th overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets should draft James Bouknight. What's up and welcome to the Sam Dracula channel, Charlotte Hornets fan channel, and I am continuing my series on prospects the Hornets could maybe, possibly, potentially draft with the 11th overall pick. This hat is meant to be my stand-in. I don't have any merch, so I bought a Padres hat because it has SD on it. Sam Dracula, you know, San Diego, same thing. And the logo gets lost in my green screen, so that's a fail. That's a fail on my part. If you're new around here, I'm making videos about what the Hornets could maybe do with the 11th overall pick as we kind of get closer and closer to draft day, right? The first video was about trading the pick, like what the Hornets could maybe do in the trade market with that 11th overall pick, you know, really solidify the roster, bringing in an established player versus a rookie, kind of weighing that up. The second video was a video in the same style this one's going to be in on Jalen Johnson, a guy that I think would be awesome in the NBA in general and a really viable piece of the puzzle here in Charlotte. I did him first because he was one of the few players on my big board that have officially worked out for the Hornets. Another one of those guys that has officially worked out for the Hornets is James Bouknight, and that's what this episode's about. On the screen is my big board, right? There's no Cade, there's no Jalen, there's no Evan Mobley, because I have guys that could be there when the Hornets draft at 11th. The names on the left-hand side are all pulled from mock drafts, guys that were in people's range of 11. So guys that were consistently appearing somewhere between 9 and like 13, right? That kind of range. And then what I then did was took those names and then looked at where those players ranked on ESPN, NBA Draft.net, Ringer, Sports Illustrated, CBS, Sporting News, Bleacher Report, The Athletic, in their big boards, averaged those numbers out, ranked them accordingly, and boom, there we are. So today's episode on James Bouknight, he's second in the big board. Scotty Barnes is there. I'm gonna make a video on him eventually. I think it's gonna be later because I don't think he'll be there at 11, but just in case, I would love to make a video on him without getting my hopes up too highly, you know? The man of the hour, James Bouknight, he averaged out to 9.75 on like the aggregate big board ranking, right? ESPN has an 8, NBA Draft.net 7, Ringer at 21, got him. Sports Illustrated 7, CBS 5th, Sporting News 9th, Bleacher Report 12th, Athletic 9th. So outside the Ringer really killing his his average here. He could be above homeboy here if the Ringer wasn't bringing him down. What's their beef? Kevin O'Connor is not a fan of James Bouknight. He's a comparison to the rest of the guys in here. The comps: Donovan Mitchell, CJ McCollum, Jordan Clarkson, all fantastic comps. Explosive athlete, quick first step. Yep. I want to get to the beef. Playmaking instincts. He forces some passes that aren't there and misses some open opportunities. He too often kills his dribble. That's a rip. Streaky spot-up shooter whose issues could be due to his mechanics. Has a relatively stiff shot out of a stationary position. Inconsistent on-ball defender. Suffered a torn meniscus as a junior in high school. That's like 4 years ago, right? Like what? Don't kill him for that. And then, so yeah, he has him going to the Knicks at 19. What does he have the Hornets drafting? Jalen Johnson. Okay, well, it works out nicely. My next video is going to be about Jalen Johnson, so stay tuned for that. His numbers in school in 15 games, 18.7 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 44% from the floor. Like, I know his job was to put up buckets. Looking at his year-to-year numbers, so his shot attempts per game went from 9.9 to 14.6 from his freshman to sophomore year. With that came with a dip in field goal percentage, which isn't really a shock. Like, you shoot more, you're gonna miss more type of thing. It'd be great if that wasn't the case, but it is what it is. The 2-point percentage went up year over year. The 3-point percentage went down, especially like compared to his freshman year, 2.6 threes per game to 5 threes per game. But again, even just listening to his own words, he was on the floor to score buckets and he was shooting that thing. He shot that thing a lot. Bouknight, by far his team's leading scorer. Bouknight led his team in turnovers last year, which really jives with what Kevin O'Connor was saying about his playmaking instincts. So I guess that's a totally fair criticism, you know? Second on the team in steals, second in assists, third in rebounds. I'm never a fan of a free throw percentage in the 70s, so there's room for improvement there, obviously. He took a lot of free throws, to be fair. He was very aggressive. I rate that. I like that a lot. Getting to the line, by far shooting more free throws per game than anybody else. Yeah, taking 5 threes per game, more than anybody else. Almost 10 2-pointers per game. Like he got the ball up. To his credit, I think he missed like 5 weeks because of like bone chips in his elbow or something like that. And he still, even if it's just a point, led the team in scoring as far as total points go. I rate it. The high level like look at him and what he brings, right? We're talking scoring, athleticism, and ball handling. He seems to be very comfortable in his ability to get his own shot, right? He's not the guy that necessarily would get his teammates involved, but in the half court, in the fast break, he can make something happen. I look at that, I think about that, and I think that'd be very, very sorely needed for the Charlotte Hornets, because I'm thinking about the second unit. So when the season comes back, I gotta assume, obviously, that LaMelo's the point guard, Terry is the shooting guard, Gordon at the 3, PJ at the 4, and then somebody is the center. I have no idea who the center is going to be next year. A lot of possibilities there. We'll find that out at a later date altogether. But that's the 5, right? Who knows what happens with Devontae and Malik, but let's pretend they both come back, right? The second unit would be Graham, Monk, Bridges, McDaniels, and then maybe Vernon Carey, right? Whoever, insert whatever center is on the team at that point, the backup center. I don't know what that means, but that would be the second unit. If Devontae or Malik aren't a part of the franchise going into next year, which is a possibility, both of them may be gone. Who knows? Is Bouknight the type of player that could slot in to Devontae or Malik's role? And my answer to that is no and yes. I don't view him as a guy, from what I've seen and read about, a guy that can run a half-court offense. But he's a guy that can get a bucket in the half-court and create his own shot. That sounds a lot like Malik Monk, right? And I am not eager to see Malik leave by any means. But if he does go, and Bouknight is there, that type of replacement would make a lot of sense. And in the short term, if Bouknight was a Charlotte Hornet next year, I think right away we would see a guy really eager to get a bucket off, like not afraid to let it fly. I talked about energy and athleticism a lot with Keon Johnson, just because that's such a standout quality for him. Bouknight has a lot of that too, with some added scoring sprinkled on top. And that would be hella useful in the second unit in his first year with the Hornets, right? In his rookie year. There were long stretches last year where the second unit came on and the energy of the floor changed. Like the energy of the flow of the offense took a dip. Let's talk about the half-court offense for a second and how the Charlotte Hornets use their centers in the half-court. More often than not, Biz and or Zeller, but mostly Biz, they'll come out to the top of the key in a handoff, right? They'll either set a pick or there'll be a dribble handoff to them. And with Biz or Cody, when they get the ball at the top of the key, they're not ever turning to face the basket. Like they're looking to hand that ball right back off. And it's up to a cutter, another ball handler to make something happen off of that interaction, right? It can be kind of dead. So if Zeller or Biz comes back next year and we're in that half-court situation and like the Hornets draft Bouknight, let's say, how would that look? This is a Mike Schmidt's video on the NBA on ESPN interviewing Bouknight. And I have this freeze frame up here. So let me run it for a second. Yep. So this dribble handoff here, Biz does this all the time. Zeller does this all the time. Because when they're out here, you don't defend it. Look at this guy. He's nowhere near him. If this boy wanted to shoot the ball, he would be here. He knows he's not shooting it. So how do you make the most out of this when the other team knows that the center is going to pass the ball because he's not going to shoot it? Well, Bouknight thrives off this scenario, right?
Dribble handoffs. So we talked about pick and roll, talked about isolations. How comfortable are you in these types of situations?
I think that this is like a major part of my game this year.
Yep.
Major part of his game this year. So I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's 26 minutes long. Go check it out. But you get the point. He would fit in perfectly in what we saw last year from this team with Biz or Zeller on the floor with him, running that, taking that shot. Makes sense. It's a perfect matchup. Continuing the theme of looking at the current Hornets personnel and how those guys would mesh with Bouknight, hypothetically, right? Let's say Bouknight's on the floor with Devontae in the second unit, okay? That's the scenario. Let's picture it together. Got it? Cool. Devontae is handling the ball. Now, what's Bouknight gonna do? He needs to be able to show that off-ball movement, that off-the-catch ability to get involved. Unprofessional opinion on Bouknight is that he needs the ball in his hands to be an effective scorer. Like, he's not that guy off the ball or in a catch and shoot. But he says, nah, he can do everything.
That's why I feel like that separates me from other players in this draft. I feel like
You can do both.
like I could just find my offense within any system.
Right.
That's what you want to hear. That's what I want to hear, right? A guy that can fit in any scenario possible and succeed. He doesn't need a specific flow, a specific play, a specific offense to get buckets, because the Hornets need buckets. We need them. We need all the buckets we can get, because this team got streaky last year. And it got to a point where, like, all right, who's going to save this team in the third quarter? You know, slow start in the first. How's this team going to come back? How are we going to maintain a lead? Who's going to get hot? We can't rely on Terry Rozier to save this team every single game, right? Everyone has to do their part. Bouknight, the way he's speaking at least, and from what the scouts are saying, seems to be a guy that can contribute to a rescue mission if it got to that point, which I am here for. His own words in the same interview, in the same video, it talks about not being all the way checked in when defending off the ball, like whether he was tired or just focusing on other things on the floor, that he needs to improve his off-ball defense, as well as what the scouts are saying and what he's saying is playmaking ability. He feels is underrated and that he can do it at the next level, which he'll need to do at the next level. And so when I hear about that, like, okay, cool, that's a good long-term goal. Off-ball defense and playmaking. Where else can the Hornets can manage without that from him specifically in year one? If the Hornets draft him at 11, I would hope he would be the guy or a guy that could potentially fill in Malik Monk's shoes, Devontae Graham's shoes, whether they're on the team or not. Like, somebody's gonna get hurt, somebody may get suspended. Who knows what'll happen in this next upcoming year? I've been preaching center and small forward as the two biggest needs for the Hornets this offseason. And the beauty of the situation is the Hornets could have their cake and eat it too, right? They could draft James Bouknight as potentially, depending on who you ask, the best player available at that time, which I would be very happy with. And they could still address the center spot and the small forward position in free agency, which would be right around the corner after the draft, or in the trade market. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if they left the draft with no center, for instance. So that's why I think the Hornets are in a very kind of enviable position where everything is on the table. Like, they should be considering and working out and interviewing everybody, because no one player, most likely, like, not to put too much pressure on these kids, no one player is going to save this team in this draft, especially where the Hornets are drafting. And so just to put a wrap on this, I think Bouknight is a really impressive player who has a very high ceiling if he rounds out his game a little more, you know? And he seems determined to do that, which is a key. Like, he's not happy with where things are. Like, he's not content or complacent about things. So that's a good quality to have. And I think in the short term, he could be a benefit to this roster. Like, he wouldn't be a project, so to speak. You know, with his athleticism and scoring ability, I think he can help out day one. And then as he progresses in his career and rounds out his game some more, maybe we could see him in the starting five at some point. You know, as like Terry Rozier, for instance, you know, his contract runs out. Who knows what happens with Malik Monk? All of a sudden, Bouknight's our starting shooting guard. And a perceived area depth all of a sudden becomes really shallow, and we're searching for a new two guard. So that's why the Hornets need to have every position on the radar, because in 1 year, that area of strength could be an area of weakness as far as talent depth goes. So I'm glad they brought in Bouknight to look at. I'm sad there's no interview on him, like, that I can see, unless I'm blind here. Like, I'm on the Hornets website, and they have all these interviews with players from the pre-draft workout. Jaden Springer, AJ Lawson. This is the Keon Johnson interview I showed you guys in the other video, but nothing from Bouknight, which is a bummer. But at least he was here. At least they got an up-close look at him, and he's clearly on the Hornets radar. So we'll see what happens. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't seen it, go check out my trade video. Go check out my Keon Johnson video. Up next is Jalen Johnson. And then if the Hornets bring in any other players for pre-draft workouts, I'll prioritize those videos next. If not, I'm just gonna do a Scotty Barnes video, kind of work my way down this big board, you know? But I appreciate it. As always, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you leave a subscription. Nope, leave a like, subscribe. That's what I meant to say. I'm not editing that out. I'm gonna leave it in here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.